Look into this dark, unforgiving glass eye, the mesh of the microphone. Tell it your deepest thoughts, hopes, fears, and desires. We will take these emotions, turn them, and feed them back to you, for we have goals, goals that your feelings will assist. This is how we rule, from the shadows, playing your emotions like puppet strings. We lead you to destinations that we have prepared, and you willingly oblige, thinking these decisions to be your own. When you do as we wish, we reward you, and when you go against us, we punish you. In a million subtle ways, we influence your supposedly free choice. By this method, we rule over a population convinced that they are the masters of their own destiny. Welcome to the Empire of Lies.
Yes, indeed. Welcome back to the Empire of Lies. I think this is the 41st installment we've done, so we are getting up there.
No way.
Yeah,
41 episodes.
Yeah, and
Dude.
that's not counting Gulag Cafe, because I number my thumbnails for the Empire of Lies streams, Empire of Lies number, and this is the 41st one, so we've done quite a few of these.
That's a lot of empire and a lot of lies.
Oh yeah, there's too many lies to cover, but we do our best. For those of you that may be new to this stream, the way it works is Chris is the primary presenter of this series. Sometimes I take the reins and I'm the primary presenter, but most of the time it's him. And this is a 1 hour segment, so it's about a 45-minute presentation by Chris here. We cover a specific topic of things that you should know about how we're being lied to, or how the lies that exist are going to affect you and what's going on in culture. That's the whole purpose of this series, is to anybody who is of the mind and the desire to wrap your head around this bizarre beast of lies and misdirection and confusion and propaganda that we've all grown up in. That's what the purpose of this stream is for. We will not be interrupting the stream to take super chats and things like that during the stream, but the last 5 minutes or so of the stream, we will be getting to those. I will put up a banner near the end to remind you to get in your paid chats. And just to remind you, I prefer that you use Entropy to send in your paid chats. For just a few dollars, you can send in a lot if you have things to say. And of course, if you want to give us more money, there's plenty of larger financial options there. You can send in hyper chats on Odyssey. You can send in short messages on Cash App and PayPal. I even have a slide here that I will pop up to show you. I would deeply appreciate Subscribestar monthly subscriptions. Over on Subscribestar, you can send tips that are like super chats, and I read those as well. And monthly subscriptions really show me that what I'm doing is worth it, that viewers are willing to put forward $5, $10, $20 a month into me for the work that me and Chris do. And just to remind you, all of the proceeds that come in for this stream and the Gulag Cafe that takes place in the same slot, I split the proceeds 50-50 with Newsfist over here. This is a shared effort. So with the preface and the shill out of the way, we have something prepared for you tonight. And like always, I'll have a little white pill at the end, but we are going to be talking about artificial intelligence and where that might take us. Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you. Take it away.
Thanks, Yuz. So I came across a paper a while back about AI decoherence, which is what happens to an AI model when you train it on AI-generated data. This is something that is going to become increasingly an issue in the modern world as more and more of the internet is polluted with AI-generated data. Now, don't get me wrong, I use AI large language models all the time. All of my thumbnails are AI-generated. I am actually a big fan of using AI. But as the sort of data on the internet more widely becomes more and more AI generated, we are going to sort of hit a wall where if a company just scrapes the internet at random in order to train their AI, more and more AI generated data is going to wind up in that training model. And once the amount of AI data in the training model reaches a certain point, you start getting a thing called decoherence, which is where the AI basically starts going crazy. Interestingly enough, the first thing that seems to happen is that you get a uniformity of output. There's a paper that sort of demonstrates this quite well, where they use an image generating AI to do this. And they train it on various pictures of dogs. So you have the first AI is trained on pictures of real dogs. Excuse me. Then they get that AI to output pictures of various dogs, and then they use those pictures to train another AI, and they just keep going round and round and doing this. Now, after you do this like a few times, the AI becomes only capable of generating one kind of dog. So you'll ask it to produce a basset hound or any kind of dog. It will only produce one kind of dog. And then if you do this a couple more times, the AI completely decoheres and you just get nonsense. And this got me thinking about totalitarian societies. This got me thinking about the way that lies begin to pollute the information space and knowledge productions as societies like the UK, for example, or generally the Western world under woke. The lies begin to pollute knowledge production, and how you tend to get, as a result, this weird uniformity at first, and then everything decoheres into a massive mess. And this sort of got me thinking, and so did a bit of research on this topic, did a bit of writing, did a bit of asking of chat GPT, and I would like to share with you my results. Yiz, if we could ensmollen, please. Now, this is the research paper. AI models collapse when trained on recursively generated data, which is basically a fancy way of saying what I was saying before. Hang on a second. I have lost my place. Excuse me. Here we go. Right. Now, there's a very, very good image that illustrates what I am talking about here, right? If you can see it, actually, perhaps I might zoom in on it a little bit and make it a little bit easier for people to see. Right. So we start with actual pictures of dogs. We've got a bunch of good boys here, doggo images, and we use this to train an artificial intelligence, in this case, an image generation one, right? Then we get the AI model to generate images of all of these different dogs. As you notice, it seems to generate more of one certain kind of dog, in this case, the golden retriever. And then as this process goes on, it becomes only able to generate the golden retriever. And then we get model collapse, where the entire thing just basically breaks apart. Now, this is a distinct risk. As I was saying, scientists all over the world are worried about the amount of AI data on the internet. I suspect that algorithms that can parse or figure out AI data is going to become increasingly crucial to prune AI data sets. And I think this will also be one of the reasons why, for example, 4chan has been long noted as an excellent source of AI training data. Now, the wokies, they hate 4chan because, you can say whatever is on your mind and it's anonymous. But it turns out that it's very rich data, because it is basically the truth that people are saying, unburdened by the idea that they can be identified by what they say. So 4chan, despite its problems, has become quite useful for training AI data. Now, what I started asking ChatGPT is, what is the actual limit of fake data, AI generated data, that you can use in a training data set and not get decoherence, right? I am presuming that, much like lies in the general sort of milieu of society, AI training data, particularly if it is biased, is going to affect the output. Now, this made me think of The Neverending Story by Michael Ende, if any of you are old enough to ever have read that or seen the movie. In The Neverending Story, the big bad was essentially a thing called the Nothing. And this nothing was basically lies. These lies tore apart the fantasy world of the never ending story to the point where, at the end, the entire world was reduced to, well, to nothing until the princess and Atreyu, the hero, were able to make like a new story and reboot the world from scratch. Um, Lies pollute the information environment. Even though we tend to think that some lies are necessary, we do a little bit of lying, we do a little bit of politeness, but it's very, very easy to slip from one into the other. And this this point that the AI made about how you get decoherence was very, very interesting. Excuse me. So you get a synthetic data feedback loop, essentially. So the lies compound upon lies. Now, we see this very, very clearly. Excuse me again.
I know you've been feeling under the weather. Everybody here is sick too. Like,
yeah, I do apologize. I'm really feeling quite unwell, bro. So I do apologize. I do apologize. Now what they found was that when they studied this is that if synthetic data exceeds 20 to 30% of the training set, models begin to show noticeable degradation. Beyond 50 to 60%, coherence and generalization rapidly deteriorate. Now, this again made me think about the information environment in society. How there is always a certain amount of lies going around. There are always some people actively deceiving or who are just idiots who believe lies and then parrot them again and fill them out into the ecosphere. But as long as this is under a certain threshold, society generally survives. Just let me go back to the doggos picture, and I've got written something on this. So what can AI teach us about social collapse? We see this happening in societies even before AI. As soon as truth and spontaneity is outlawed. As corrupted knowledge is fed back into knowledge production, first a mass uniformity develops, which is eventually followed by a collapse, at which point knowledge production turns into knowledge destruction, which then becomes knowledge collapse. The USSR is an excellent example of this phenomenon. First, art, culture, and music are destroyed, and then finally the hard sciences succumb. Lysenkoism is an excellent example of this phenomenon. The cause is simple. As soon as a society gives up its quest for truth and begins silencing those who would point out the flaws in logic that the government has adopted, the rot begins to set in. It starts first, of course, in the soft sciences, in the arts. Old laws and traditions are abandoned. After all, who needs them? Common truths are usurped. History is mangled and changed. Once this process is underway, it is not long before someone takes a look at the hard sciences, utilizing truths which go against the ideology, and attack them. We have seen this process play out in real time in much of the West in the last decade. The altering of history, the lionization of populations that have done nothing to advance the countries they are in, vicious and vociferous narratives about the evil of Western culture, based not on truth or good research or historical accuracy, but merely upon the silencing of anyone who disagrees. As those who are speaking an excluded truth are removed from knowledge production, the ideology moves forward, inducing mass uniformity, as all knowledge production becomes tainted with a possibility of censure and retaliation. Gradually, only safe facts are permitted to be uttered. No one knows what the truth really is, and no one cares. One must simply say the magic words and accept the magic ideology in order to get funding, in order to keep one's job, in order not to be hounded out of the academy or society. Eventually, all knowledge production becomes simply empty slogans being mouthed for money with a total disconnect from any underlying truth.
And I think we. Oh, sorry. Go
go
ahead.
on.
I was
No,
just
no,
going to say, I would like to remind everyone who's listening. I'm sure that you guys remember the last several years seeing the clips going around of all of the newscasters, left, right, up, down, and center. This is dangerous to our democracy, or vaccines save lives. Vaccines are 100% effective. Just this. It's a cacophony of uniformity, and it drowns out everything true and real. And like Chris just described, that type of crushing of spontaneity and truth is what leads to this garbled slop. And that's what we have leading us. That's what culture and academia is today, garbled slop.
And I got to say, the trans thing is in a sense like almost the ultimate peak.
Yeah.
The sky is green, not blue. That's not a man, that's a woman. I mean, really, like there's an old saying, I forget who it was who said it. If the government can get you to believe absurdities, they can get you to commit atrocities. And
Yep.
I think about this a lot because it's absolutely true. Because to get people to believe absurdities, you have to get rid of or destroy anyone who would speak up and counter that absurdity.
And a big one that even predates us is abortion. How many times in the 40s, 50s, and 60s were the naysayers silenced, removed, beaten down by quote unquote men of science? It's just a clump of cells. Life doesn't start until X, whether it be heartbeat or birth or a certain brainwave frequency, all to normalize absolute atrocities of millions and millions of unborn fetuses being terminated. Like, that's a good example to point to, even decades and decades ago, before we were even talking about culture war stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue the civil rights movement as well. But as I was saying before, I think as long as the lies remain below a certain threshold, and as long as people are mostly free to speak out, this effect is mitigated. But once it starts ramping up, it very, very quickly runs out of control in a sort of feedback loop. Anyway, to continue. As this process advances, entire departments of government and academia become taken over by such people, and suicidal policies begin to get adopted, regardless of the damage. The net zero agenda in the UK is a perfect example of this, echoing Lysenkoism in more ways than one. Excuse me. This policy has a very serious chance of bankrupting and causing famines in the United Kingdom. But the underlying ideology of climate change is enforced with an iron hand. No one can be allowed to deviate. At this point in the process, entire sections of the populace are effectively locked out of all public representation, and decision-making and diversity, entire sections of the populace are effectively locked out of all public representation and decision-making, and diversity becomes uniformity, the first step before the stage of complete gibberish. So once it takes this uniformity, the algorithm becomes only able to produce one kind of dog. Any single question that you ask it always has one answer. You can see why I started thinking along these lines.
And similar to the dog, you brought up the whole transgender garbage. Like that is going to be the ultimate end of this experiment of, whatever you want to call it, is everyone's gender, sex, ethnicity, occupation, personality is all the same blended together gray brown slop. So in the pursuit of diversity, diversity is destroyed. In pursuit of individualism, you have total unity and conformity. It just doesn't work. Like this project does not do what it claims to do.
Diversity is just a thing they say. It means nothing.
I know,
and I would actually venture that the further this process sort of accelerates, the more these words mean absolutely nothing. What does climate change even mean now? What does diversity even mean? What does racism even mean? What does fascism even mean? These words are completely hollow. They have decohered. They have lifted off entirely from any kind of rational.
They're just ideological punishment words for white people, Christians, and heterosexuals.
Yes. It has been said by some that no one really believes these lies, that this entire process is simply preference falsification by those who cannot stand to lose their jobs or careers, who have become so used to lying that it becomes second nature. This is a horrible state for any government or organization to be in, as it demonstrates that all respect for the truth has been lost. Under such social and economic incentives, the lies compound, and a small group of ideological idiots control the entire organization through a process of threats and cajoling. We have seen this so many times in the West recently, especially in the arena of art. Video games are an excellent example of this. Everything has become uniform. In some ways, many of these large companies are just making the same game over and over again, since this is the only safe arena in which they can operate. However, unlike the video game industry, you do not have a choice of whether you wish to engage with government, and as such, the corruption of government is much more dangerous. You can choose to boycott a games company, but you cannot choose to boycott your government. And, this is when government, they just start saying the same thing over and over again, every single time. It does not matter what happens. It does not matter how bad things get. They just say the same thing over and over. Could this be a parallel to how totalitarianism works? That as lies accumulate in a synthetic version of reality, people are forced to imbibe and repeat those lies, which then leads to model collapse. Eventually, only one thing can be produced, and then everything goes to crap. Despite the many high hopes that people have for AI, what I see happening is just the proliferation of busy work and craft. For example, you want to send a simple message, yet you cannot, because of political correctness or bureaucratic ideology. Say you want to say to someone, your work sucks ass. You get an AI to turn this into a page of text with the appropriate mollifying language, all the caveats, and then send it off. On the other end, the receiver feeds that page of text through another AI, which extracts the salient points, which they then read. This not only makes Chinese whispers and misunderstanding much more likely, but is in effect an incredible waste of time and resources. All that compute power is being used because you are not allowed to say to someone that their work sucks. This is an often observed phenomena when there is a lot of computing power about. The need to optimize code to make it more efficient goes by the wayside. Since computers are so fast, it does not matter if the code is bollocks. AI may in fact enable more speech codes, not less, since instead of having to spend your time writing all of the stupid speech codes yourself, you can just get an AI to do it. The problem, of course, is if this stuff is posted on the internet and begins being used to train AI models, you will get very subpar results. And this is one of the interesting things about 4chan. Despite the pearl-clutching class hating 4chan, its dataset produces some of the best AI algorithms because of the high amount of actually original human-created data. Now, I have some chat GPT here that I wish to read. So if so I'm asking ChatGPT about this theory that censorship and the forcible acceptance of lies in the name of authoritarianism leads to malformed truth outputs, as people are forced not to state the truth lest they suffer state violence. This knowledge is then fed back into knowledge production. AI model collapse and totalitarianism, structural similarities. 1. The recursive degradation of information. In AI, when a model is trained on AI-generated data rather than organic human-generated data, the quality of the model deteriorates. The outputs become increasingly distorted and detached from reality. I feel like we've been living through this in the last decade. In a totalitarian system, where people are forced to repeat state-mandated falsehoods, these falsehoods eventually replace genuine knowledge in discourse and institutions.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, exactly. Future knowledge is then built upon these lies, leading to a breakdown in accurate understanding of reality. 2. A loss of diversity and the reinforcement of errors. AI trained on AI-generated images leads to uniformity. All deviation and novelty disappear. As this process continues, the model loses the ability to generate high-quality images at all. In an authoritarian system, censorship and enforced ideological conformity eliminate intellectual diversity. Alternative perspectives are suppressed, leading to uniformity of thought. Over time, even the capacity for independent thought deteriorates as people internalize these lies and stop recognizing the truth. In AI, bad outputs are fed back into training data, creating a vicious cycle of degradation, and in totalitarian societies, lies become institutionalized. Education, media, and discourse are built upon them. The next generation absorbs these distortions as truth, deepening cognitive collapse. And 4, a loss of external grounding. AI model collapse happens when models rely only on their own outputs rather than anchoring to real-world data. And in a totalitarian society, when the only acceptable sources of knowledge are state-sanctioned or ideologically filtered, society loses touch with external reality. False narratives become self-sustaining, even when they contradict observable facts. Where have I seen that before?
COVID.
Totalitarian societies often fall into dysfunction because they sever themselves from reality. Bad policies based upon ideological fictions, such as Lysenkoism, lead to real-world consequences, such as famines and economic collapse. But by the time the cognitive collapse reaches that stage, internal correction mechanisms may have already been destroyed. So this is basically what I was getting at. Let me see. Net zero is effectively the new Lysenkoism.
Yeah.
It is Mao and the sparrows. It is a direct denial and attack on all of human nature, backed by an ideology that is just as patently absurd. Under Lysenkoism, Lysenko posited that nature was socialist, because of course it was. The justification for the ideology had become so pressing that it must be shoehorned into literally every part of society. Gee, where have I seen that before? Because nature was socialist, Lysenko said that nature cooperates with itself, a statement so ludicrous as to be instantly disproved by anyone who simply observes nature for any length of time. Nature is based upon competition. Animals compete for food. Plants compete for light. There may be some cooperation within species, but between species there is brutal and constant competition.
Absolutely.
Since sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, if you want a word that is analogous to nature, it's conflict.
Yes.
Because everything in the natural world, whether it be particles flying across space being rent and bent by other particles and gravity and time and shit, or if you just look at on a farm, you have creatures on the ground, critters fighting for food, predators fighting for territory. Everything in nature is a competition and a conflict 24/7 all day long, plant, animal, vegetable.
Since the acknowledgement of the competition in nature would have been seen as an endorsement of capitalism, it was decided that a new form of agriculture must be adopted. Here I would like to just read some AI output on Lysenkoism. Trofim Lysenko's assumption that, quote, nature is socialist, meaning that biological systems inherently cooperate rather than compete. I just want to point out, this is how retarded the Soviet Union had become by this point under Stalin. Right? This is literally the equivalent to net zero in terms of not only stupidity, but uniformity and the disastrous outcome of these policies. It was at the heart of his disastrous influence on Soviet agricultural policy. His rejection of Mendelian genetics in favor of Lysenkoism led to several catastrophic policies that resulted in widespread famine and agricultural failure. Below is a detailed breakdown of how his ideological approach led to these disastrous outcomes. 1. The rejection of Mendelian genetics and scientific consensus. Lysenko denied the existence of genes and the principles of heredity, which were well established in Western genetics. Instead, he believed in Lamarckism, the idea that acquired characteristics could be inherited. So, for example, he claimed that wheat plants exposed to cold temperatures would pass on cold resistance to their offspring. This led to policies like vernalization, where seeds were pre-treated in ways that supposedly induced beneficial traits. Okay, so to just break this down, essentially what Lamarckism means is this idea, let's say we took an African, like right out of, Central African, out of the Congo, right? And we stuck him in Iceland, in Scotland, right? Somewhere extremely, extremely cold, right? And we exposed him to the cold. Under Lamarckian genetics, it would follow that were he to have children, they would have better resistance to the cold because they have been exposed to that environmental stressor. That's not how it works.
No.
Now, the outcome of Lysenkoism on planting were that crops failed to adapt as expected, as they lacked true genetic modification, and farmers were forced to follow ineffective techniques, reducing their yields significantly. This came down to cooperative planting and the Soviet meadow theory. Lysenko's belief that nature is socialist meant he rejected the idea of competition among plants. This was seen as a capitalist bourgeois science. He argued that dense planting of crops would encourage mutual cooperation rather than struggle for resources. This is much like the the way all the net zero people are claiming that net zero is going to make the economy boom. It isn't. This contradicted well-established agricultural science, which recognized that overcrowding leads to competition for light, water, and nutrients. This resulted in stunted crops, poor growth, and massive crop failures. And farmers, of course, were forced to abandon spacing practices that had been developed through centuries of experience. Who needs traditional planting techniques? Of course, there was a ban on bourgeois genetics and persecution of scientists. Lysenko's theories were politically favored by Stalin as they aligned with Marxist ideas of environmental determinism, much like historical determinism. This led to the suppression of real genetic research, including the imprisonment and execution of scientists who opposed Lysenkoism, and the banning of Mendelian genetics, which was labeled as fascist science.
Where have we heard that? Oh my goodness! It's almost like which AI is this? Is this ChatGPT?
Yeah, this is ChatGPT. Yes,
it's almost like ChatGPT went to I don't know, any university in the West.
Oh, it really did. If you start
asking
it, about whether white people are allowed to have a homeland, it starts quoting like the most left wing anti-white think tanks imaginable.
Oh,
right?
I know. People send that stuff to me all the time.
So of course this this made the USSR fall behind in agricultural sciences, remained inefficient for decades, and there was a result: famine and widespread food shortages. Millions of people died in famines that could have been prevented with scientifically sound agricultural policies. Now, the reason I'm sort of going into detail about Lysenko is I want to demonstrate how a fundamental error in thinking forced by the government and the elimination of all dissent can result in incredibly bad outcomes. Mao and the Sparrows would be another excellent example of this. In case you're not aware, Mao was also a big sort of communist nature guy, and at one point decided that, the sparrows are eating a lot of grain. Let's get rid of all the sparrows. He started a mass lion effort. He told all of the people to kill every sparrow they saw. People went around constantly beating trees so that the sparrows could not rest, and they died in their millions. And guess what happened next? The bugs that the sparrows ate became endemic, and there was a massive plague of locusts. Crops were lost, and millions died. Imagine my shock.
You're telling
Imagine
me.
my shock.
You're
And the
telling
same,
me
and the
that
same is going to happen with net zero, in my opinion.
probably.
Probably, unfortunately, much to my annoyance. So
Instead, we're the sparrows now.
yes, we are all the sparrows now.
They're instead of shaking the trees, they're just cutting us out of work and academia and not letting us associate and not letting us speak our minds. We're basically the sparrows and our trees being beaten. Unfortunately, the tree is Western civilization.
So in conclusion, so although we may have all been locked out of academia, although we may have been locked out of political power, we do still have a voice thanks to the internet and social media. And I suspect the way things are moving in the US, it is going to be much harder for countries, groups like the EU, countries like the UK, to really shut down social media in the way that they want. This provides a crucial outlet, a crucial font of actual real data. Remember, we're not talking quite so much about things like philosophical ideals of a Platonic truth. What is important is that people are truthfully speaking their mind, that they are truthfully relating what they observe. I don't want to get into some philosophical thing about, oh, no one knows the ultimate and final truth. That's not the point. The point is that people are saying their true opinions. They are voicing what they really observe. They are not simply parroting lies that are given to them secondhand by the government. Never doubt how important telling the truth is. I know sometimes it can be a chore. Depending on where you are, the sanctions can be very harsh, but you are doing a service to humanity by telling the truth. It is very important. Once the last person who disagrees, the last person who is telling the truth, the last person who voices a dissenting view is gone, that is the point at which decoherence kicks into high gear. The point at which there will be no other ideas. The point at which the people who are not really paying attention, or the people who are raised in this information environment, will never get exposed to any alternate point of view. They will simply parrot the party line no matter what happens. A UFO might land in their backyard and all they can think is, well, what are the implications for climate change? Or how would Comrade Stalin view this, right? This is the sort of through the looking glass world that people like George Orwell were attempting to illustrate. Don't let it happen, bros. Keep speaking out. And I would just like to say I'm very, very grateful to all of the Ameribros who seem to really care about what's going on in the United Kingdom. Please keep saying things that we may not even be allowed to say anymore. It might be illegal for us to say it, but I have noticed that many Americans are very, very keen to exercise their freedoms on behalf of those of us trapped in the UK, and I appreciate it very much.
Look what Big O's just said. Literal empire of lies we live in.
It is, exactly. It is the literal empire of lies. Yes.
That is why I called the stream this. That's why I came up with the name, is I thought, what would be more appropriate when we're to talk about all this crap.
Yes. We are all from the same Anglo blood. Fundamentally, I believe that a great many of us have the same hatred for lies and dissembling and for forced conformity of thought. This is a great injustice to the English, who I have always admired for their strange eccentricities. If you look at sort of the classical English, there are many eccentrics among them who beaver away at like weird hobbies and have sort of like weird ideas and stuff like that. And it was that kind of attitude that created so many great things. Please keep speaking out for us, bros. And just don't. It doesn't matter what you are. Just don't be uniform, and don't trust the government.
And stumbling, my moderator in chat does bring up a good point about Go Free. The Go Free method that I push a lot, it helps you speak this important truth to people in a way they can hear. like, and Jason goes on about this on his channel all the time, the No White Guilt guy. I talk about it at length on my other streams. It's important not just to say things, but how you say things to make them land well with people. And so check out the Go Free book. It's called Alignment to the Archetype of Western Kind. Listen to Jason's channel, listen to my content. It's important to speak with love and compassion for your own people and what is right and true. But it also matters to use the right language, to speak about it in a way that cuts to the core of things and is not already poisoned in other people's minds. You don't want to be a villain. You don't want to sound like a crackpot Alex Jones. You want to sound like the hero in the room that wants to right wrongs, that wants to punish evil, that wants to say the right things to uplift others for a better tomorrow. That's how you want to come off to others, and that's why Go Free really matters.
And I would like to shout out Dananaki Fuquay, fight the British Holodomor. Quite. I really wish that that I lived in a time where I could comfortably say that this was a ridiculous idea. Unfortunately,
No,
I don't. So
I laugh because of how darkly true that is.
Yeah. So thank you
It's
very
very
much.
sad.
Right. So I'm basically done, unless you want me to talk more about the Lysenko Soviet meadow theory.
It's fine. No,
I just did a big.
It was about 40 minutes. That was good. The thing that I want to talk about tonight, I don't have a scripted thing tonight. I have a white pill for you guys tonight, something that came across my desk. There is a man, I forget his ethnicity. I think he's Polish. He's either Polish or German. I'm pretty sure he's Polish. But he teaches English in South Korea, right? And he is doing, or he already did, a study last year into just how anti-white artificial intelligence is becoming. And I find that very poignant, because if someone who lives in South Korea and teaches English is able to see this problem and is doing a study about it, that gives me hope. Because I looked into this guy. He's not any kind of political that I can tell. He's not somebody who is particularly pro-white or particularly anti-white. He just seems like a scientist who likes truth, and he seems like a decent guy. And he noticed how in academia and artificial intelligence, especially where it's going, seems to always have an anti-white bias no matter what AI you use or what you ask it. And so he wondered why. And this is very interesting. I would just like to read the abstract here, if you don't mind. If you want to pull it up on stream, you can.
Yes, and I would just like to point out, good luck getting anything like this published in the West.
Yeah,
I was in no way surprised that this in fact came out in South Korea.
yeah. I'm sharing the link in all the chats now. You guys can all share this. It's free. This is a free study link. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to sign up for anything. And if you want to look into this data on your own, you may. And I highly recommend sharing it to anyone and everyone who is into academia, science, things like that, because they cannot ignore this. This is real. Now, I'm just going to read the abstract real quick. Despite recent advances, reports suggest that artificial intelligence chatbots and image generators demonstrate bias against white people when crafting responses to their place in history and on utterances demonstrating white identity. Until now, however, there has yet to be a systematic analysis using corpus data that characterizes the context in which these topics are covered in text-based online news reporting to determine if the anti-white sentiment demonstrated by AI is merely a reflection of textual data on which it has been trained. Using virtual corpora generated from English language online news articles via the NOW corpus to extract frequency-based keywords, the current study demonstrates that news reporting on phrases such as White Lives Matter and it's okay to be white was characterized by terms with inherently negative connotations. Here's those meme pathogens that Jason in the Go Free book always go on about. That's where these come in. Continuing on with the abstract. Overall, the most frequently occurring vocabulary consisted largely of evocative, highly subjective, and threatening nouns and adjectives, which could be described as ad hominem attacks featured conspicuously throughout. Terms such as supremacist, neo-Nazi, racist, fascist occurred repeatedly across multiple corpora, that means bodies of data, at a high frequency. These findings provide a possible explanation for the mechanism by which ChatGPT and other AI content generation modalities display anti-white bias and double standards. Now, we don't have to dig into this more, but I spent about 20 minutes looking through this. I'm not Aidan Paladin, so I'm not good at parsing all of this social data like she is. But a few days ago, when this first came to me, I sent it to Aidan, and hopefully when she gets sick, or when she's done being sick, she will be able to dig into this, and she might even do a video on it. I would love to see her do a nice, 45-minute, hour-long piece
Oh
on
yes,
this.
Aidan, if you're listening, please do a video on this. I'd
And-
love to hear you.
And this is very good because this demonstrates and proves why Jason Kuna is correct. He has been banging this drum for 10 or 15 years, at least as far as I know, maybe longer, about why we have to stop the anti-white mind poison, the MPs, the mimetic pathogens, because this is what it does. This whole presentation that Chris did today was showing you how all of this garbage data in, garbage data out, anti-whiteism in, white erasure out. It's the same thing. And this guy has proved it. Like, if you look through all of his data, all the data show that the reason why artificial intelligence is blatantly anti-white is because the corpora, the bodies of data that it's fed, are just riddled with thousands and thousands of data points of everything that it reads and consumes being blatantly anti-white. Oh, does someone like white people? They are every negative stereotype in the book. Everything is their fault. Colonizers, Hitler, Nazis, fascists, all this stuff. That's what that is all that it eats. That's all that it eats. And what comes out?
Just for a sec.
Sure.
If you do a bit of exploring around this idea and start asking AI, what you find is that there has been inclusion in the corpora of outputs from a number of highly, highly anti-white organizations. The ADL features very prominently. For example, if you start asking it about, is it okay to be white?
Yeah.
The Runnymede Trust, the Roundtree Foundation, all of these sort of explicitly anti-white organizations. And the reason they're in there, of course, is because they got their articles into mainstream media like the New York Times, Washington Post, et cetera, which have been used as the news corpus. Sorry, please go on.
No, it's fine. Like I'm not going off script or on a script, but the reason why I wanted to bring this up tonight is the longer you read this, the more complex and unpleasant to listen to, unless you're really into stats, that this becomes. But the data is here. Share this with everyone that you can. Share this with anyone who is smart enough to understand science, smart enough to understand data. This is absolute proof that anti-whiteism in, white erasure garbage out. Anti-white terms in, white negativity out. It proves this over and over and over again by showing you all the mimetic pathogens that Jason has taught us: anti-Semite, fascist, bigot, Nazi, far right, white supremacist. It shows how many thousands or millions of times these terms are keyed directly to denigrating white people in the body corpus that has been fed to all of these artificial intelligences. Not only is this proof of why all this modern data stuff is blatantly anti-white, the anti-whites don't like it because it exposes them. It shows that if it wasn't for this data show, if it wasn't for all of this, artificial intelligence would have a positive correlation with white people and nobility, ingenuity, science, freedom, liberty, and creativity, if it was not for these mimetic pathogens that drown out everything else. So, Jason, you should take a look at this. This vindicates you. Rub this in the faces of all the people who said you were wrong all these years. This is peer-reviewed scientific proof you were correct.
Yeah. And I'd just like to, do a couple of images. So these are word clouds, in case you're not aware. Basically, a word cloud is a way of visualizing the number of times that a word occurs in a given set. So, for example, this is the one associated with White Lives Matter. As you can see, the main result is anti-Semitic. I presume the ADL has had a big influence in that. The funny one, I mean, it's not funny at all, but this is the one for it's okay to be white. Again, in case you're unaware, this was started by 4chan with the express purpose of getting people to sort of out their incredible sort of anti-white bias by just saying, well, you know, it's okay to be white. White people are nice. And of course, overwhelmingly, the greatest word count is supremacist, supremacy, hate, racism. You know, all it's just crazy the way this works. And again, it's okay to be white. Top adjectives: far right, racist, right wing, conservative. I mean, it's just crazy. It's every single thing. This is essentially a way of delineating in peer review what everyone has known for ages. White History Month as well, supremacist, racist. We've seen all of this before, obviously. White History Month, racist, you know. So yes, sorry, yes, I didn't mean to break in, but these word clouds are
I was done. Like I knew that your presentation would run long, so I didn't prepare much, but I did want to bring this up because not only do I champion the Go Free method, it's helped my life, it's helped me order my thoughts, it's helped me be able to speak about these important things with people I know, and it's helped me be a better public speaker at the events I go to. It's helped me be a better local leader of people. Like, not that I have a big following or anything locally. I mean, talking to my cousins, talking to people I know through my mother at church and stuff. The method works. And most importantly, now that I've been digging into this and looking at things through the lens of Go Free for years, Jason, say what you want to about his personality or him personally. I don't have a dog in that race. I'm not telling you you have to go like Jason or follow him like a pedagogue. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is his claims about what is, where it comes from, what it's doing, and how to counter it are 100% accurate. I've tested it myself for years, and here is some good proof of that. And so that's why I wanted to shout him out, because he does not get the credit that he deserves. And this is something solid that proves all of that. And Jason, if you're listening, I hope that you will take this and do something with it. You have a much bigger audience than I do. And I know you've got a lot of haters that you can rub this in the face of. So
it's peer review. Do you not trust the science, bro? I thought you trusted the science. Well, here's some science. No, not like that. Not that kind of science. Yeah. Super chat.
Yes. We're going to go ahead and wrap up and move to the paid chats.
Let's embiggen, shall we?
We will embiggen. There we go. Now, over on Entropy, we have nothing. Oh, very good. Over on Subscribestar for tips, I don't think we have anything today. Nope, nothing on Subscribestar. I will check the PayPal and the Cash App. Okay. And all right, we have two things over on Cash App. Cash App, please work. Oh no, one of them is just a Bitcoin thing. We do have something from Jason here. He is listening tonight. Good. Jason Kuna sends us $6. Thank you very much, Jason. He sends 6 instead of 5, so it's a more even split for the both of us.
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate that, mate.
Yeah, he's cool like that. He says, most interesting stream tonight, Folk Tithe and Kip. Well, I'm glad you were listening, Jason. I was hoping that you would be, because this is this is some, like, I know people say smoking gun sometimes, but this is smoking gun evidence that what you've been saying is correct. And I wanted to let you know. All right. And Jason sent in a second one. He says, big salute and thank you for $10. Well, you're welcome, brother. You're welcome. All right. Okay. I believe that's it on Cash App. And, well, I don't think we have anything else. I think that's it tonight.
It's been a quiet night tonight. There weren't many people on my stream either.
It's almost always like this in January.
Well, it is also like right on the end of the month.
No, we have something. We have something on PayPal. Yeah, we have something on PayPal. It's Dawn Sanderson. Good to see you, Dawn. Thank you so much. She just sends us, I think that's 15 Australian dollars. It ends up being 11.90 USD. I think that's 15 Australian dollars.
Sounds about right.
But she sends in 2 little white hearts, one for me, one for Chris, one for his. So thank you very much, Dawn. You're a sweetheart. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it.
All right. And that's it that's showing up on my end. So we've reached the end of the stream. I hope you all had a wonderful time learning about just why garbage in, garbage out applies not just to artificial intelligence, but society and everything. This is why speaking the truth, having convictions, being unafraid to squash lies and to squash ugliness around you that you know is false. I know that most of us here believe in elite theory, and we don't believe that, we don't believe in this populist revolution, day of the rope shit. Most of us don't believe that because it's hogwash. But your actions still do matter as a pleb. The more you speak, the more you push back against this garbage resonance. And that's why the Go Free method is called the curative contagion. It spreads to fight this ugly cancer that's against us. So, keep heart, speak the truth, never give up. Do the best you can to be pristine, be Promethean, be wholesome, and of course, speak the truth. That's what matters, because those who have the ears to hear the truth will be emboldened by it. So that's what I have for you guys tonight. I loved your presentation, Chris. You did a great job.
Oh, thank you. I'm feeling really ill, so I appreciate that I managed to pull that off.
All right. And I see we have a lot of people in chat. We broke, did we break 100? I think we just, well, we've lost a few viewers, but I think we actually broke 100 viewers again tonight total.
Oh, wow,
so I'll have to go back and check the numbers, but it's either in the mid 90s or just over 100. So good engagement tonight too. We did great, everybody. So
thanks so much for coming, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys very, very much. Oh, at the last minute of Evola's bionic legs over on Entropy. It might be is this Evola's sunglasses? It's very similar. Could be him. Anyway, Evola's bionic legs for $5 over on Entropy says, thanks for the stream. Well, you're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Evola's bionic legs. That's a cool name.
This is a fun name. It's a fun name.
All right.
All right.
We'll see you next week. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed the stream. Thank you so much to everyone who super chatted. I really appreciate it.
And just remember, guys, the lies can't last forever, but depending on how much of our society and how much of our people that these lies take with them, that does depend on you. It depends on all of us to not give up and to fight in every way that we can, but we have to do so intelligently and with love. So let's work towards that Western sunrise together. And Chris and I will be back Monday with Happening TV and Discordant Dragons.
And tell the truth. It's important.
Tell the truth. Yeah.
Tell the truth. It is much more important than you would think. Tell the truth.
Yeah. Tell the truth. That's okay. Have a blessed weekend, everyone. We'll see you Monday. Good night.
Good night, everyone.